An age ago, the beating heart of our people was a king who knew only victory. He wanted nothing more than an honorable death on the battlefield. Yet, none could match him, and so he wandered the earth, becoming lost in time and tide. Then we too lost our honest purpose, while silk-clad men sat upon the throne. But tremble now, all cities that lay under the stars, for out of the shadows and mists of the land of promise, our courage has been rekindled, our heart has returned, and the world will burn.
It's always a surprise what's going to happen at the end of the trailers. How you doing, everybody? This is John and RJ, and it's Comic Book Team Up. How you doing, RJ?
I'm doing good. How's everybody in the chat?
Pretty good. You're kind of quiet. If you check your mic, make sure you're using the correct mic.
Okay, I will do so.
Yeah. So sometimes it uses the wrong mic. But we are here. It's Wednesday night. It's 7 p.m. And it's time for us to talk. And I took a nap and woke up about 15 minutes ago, 20 minutes ago. And I didn't ask RJ what he wanted to talk about. So I don't know what you want to talk about. But I know while RJ's fixing his mic, if he will indulge me a second or two, I will show this. This is my TeePublic store. I made t-shirts for the Crisis on Independent Earths. It seems like every day the price is creeping up $1 until it hits $24. It's like their promotion thing. So if you buy it soon, it'll be the cheapest. But as you can see, you can get the Crisis on Independent Earths. You can get it in purple. You know, we were told that purple's not proper, but you can do whatever you want because you're an adult. And then we have, you know, you can get stickers, you can get tank tops, you can get hats. I already ordered a mug. And I hope if you feel like buying it, buy it now, because I only get $1. So if the price goes up, I don't get any extra money. I literally get $1 a transaction, and that money is going to be used to help with the Crisis on Independent Earths project that RJ's part of and so many other people are part of. If you don't know what it is, ask, and I'll gladly talk about it. But see if RJ's ready. But there you go. This is the link right here. TeePublic. It's one of the starred links. I also have Heroic Tales Christmas special. I got one of the proofs. I asked for a second proof. I just wanted to try something different. And then once I okay the proof, it's going to be made and shipped out. This is You could go to Fund My Comic, get RJ's comic, Crom the Destroyer, right now. That's about to be shipping out in a month or so. And if you don't like Fund My Comic, which is weird because it's just a cool platform with, free speech and no political gatekeeping, you can also go to Kickstarter, which has political gatekeeping and all that stuff, but it also has more reach. So you can get my comic there. And here's the Teespring. So see, RJ, are you there?
I'm here. How's this
Oh,
sound
that
now?
sounds better. That sounds better. So he bought a big coffee mug at the convention. Oh yeah, I did a convention over this weekend, my first convention with Vaughn Coleman. And that was fun. That was fun. Waiting for RJ to come down with me, share a booth with me. When are you going to do that, RJ?
I watched the live stream you did with Vaughn. That was pretty good. You described exactly. You answered all my questions about how
Oh,
things worked and how you did and all that kind of stuff.
believe it or not, the thing that made me the most nervous was loading in the morning. Like I thought it was going to be like my job sites. What they do is they have like a dock manager because it's all these big trucks, everything like that. You can't just have people pulling up and parking anywhere. So it's like controlled chaos. But when we pulled up, there was just big open doors, people just bringing in their stuff. It was pretty chill. And we walked in, put everything at the table. Everybody was concerned with their own table. Nobody was stealing. Like, we put everything down behind the table, and then we started displaying it when we were there. But it was fine. Like, that was my biggest concern. I thought it was going to be like a mad free for all, but nope. And then it was just sell. Just, oh, that's me. Yeah, RJ sent me a bird, a little like Flintstones bird with an image. Yep. Rex Blazer says, "Hey guys, currently on vacation. I may not be in the chat for long. I have fun." Tony Grigo says, "Hello, Tony. I got this. I did not even start reading it yet. I'm not gonna lie. I did not start reading. He sent me a script for a comic." Tony Arkham. Everybody's saying hello. Everybody's saying hello. Talk comics. Okay. But I'm not alone on vacation. Okay. Hail Comics peeps. So, okay. Oh, I'm clicking on things. Oh, I didn't mean to do that. Jeez, I'm hitting buttons. I'm hitting buttons, the wrong buttons. So how's it going, RJ? What's going on in your life? What do you want to talk about?
Yeah. I was thinking we might talk about some good interstellar galactic comic stories, just because the whole Green Lantern thing is blowing up and everybody's complaining about the fact that you have these heroes that are supposed to be intergalactic heroes, and all of a sudden they're in a small town. And what kind of take on Green Lantern is this? I was thinking, we could talk about some actual good, intergalactic stories.
Right. Well, yeah. Everybody's asking me, did you watch the Green Lanterns? And I didn't. And I'm not one of these bitter people that like, oh, I hate this guy. It didn't look interesting to me. It looked dull. They're embarrassed by the word green. I mean, Green Lanterns is perhaps the most fantastical superhero of all. He's got a magic ring flying through space, galactic aliens, and whatever. And then you want to take the most grounded take. I don't know. Like, it would have worked if they took the Question in Huntress. This would have been a perfect premise for that. But whatever. You want to talk galactic? I'm reading Nexus as we speak.
Oh,
Have you read Nexus?
I haven't read Nexus in a long time.
Yeah, I read Nexus. I think I read the first 20 issues as they came out. And then the next, I just read them like out of order and missing issues. So I'm filling in the gaps. And I'm up to 34, reading them in the correct order. And for those of you who don't know, this is one of, if not Mike Barron's first property that he owned, but it's Steve Rude is the artist, Mike Barron is the writer. And it's about Nexus. He's Horatio Hellpop. And he has these horrible dreams. And if he ignores the dreams, he just suffers till he can't take it anymore. And the dreams are telling him he's got to kill this guy. And it's the guy that he kills is a mass murderer. So he goes around the galaxy killing mass murderers. And only after he kills the mass murderer does he relax. And it turns out he's being psychically manipulated by this alien called the Merc. And he doesn't want to do it. And in this story, is he sends other people to do the killing because he just doesn't want to do it anymore. And the Merc is freaking out, and everybody's wrong. The Merc is freaking out. I think Nexus is wrong because he handed it to aliens who just enjoy killing too much, and they killed more than the people that they were after. So I'm real curious where this is going. But it's one of the earliest superhero sci-fi comic, next to like Marvel's Warlock. Anybody in the chat read it? I know Tony probably read it. What did you think of Nexus? Did you like it?
I always loved the art. Not saying anything about Mike Barron's writing, but that's the thing that I remember the most about Nexus, because again, probably late '80s last time I read Nexus, but the art was always the thing that drew me in.
Yeah. Well, it's Steve Rude. I mean, how can you not like it? Steve Rude to me is like a disciple of Alex Toth. I finally said his name right. It's just so good. It's got that like 60s pop art, and it's like Star Wars sci-fi, like aliens living amongst each other, and some of them are goofy looking, some of them are human looking. I remember when I read it, when I first got it, I didn't know how to take it. It was completely different than anything else. And now that I'm more familiar with Mike Barron's more realistic work, rereading it seems to be like an anomaly in his career. I got to reread The Badger. I remember liking The Badger and realizing not realizing that was a little bit more realistic than Nexus. I examined Amazing Fantasy 15. I found how it crammed so much into 11 pages, average of 7 to 8 pages, 3 action beats per page. Yeah, yep, yeah. Those early Stan and Jack and Steve Ditko comics packed so much information in such a short time. Yeah, the exact opposite of what's going on now. Tony Grigo says Green Lantern's just more gun slops, completely deconstructed Hal Jordan while propping up Johnston. I'll take your word for it. I'm not interested. If the season ends and people are going, oh, it was so good, maybe I'll watch it. But as of right now, it doesn't look like Green Lantern to me. Like, are they flying through space talking to aliens?
He doesn't even have the uniform, apparently. And so I'm told that, there's a throwaway line where he says, I don't like wearing the uniform anymore. It's like a suit. So it's Green Lanterns without the Green Lantern suits. All he just has a ring, and that's it.
Yeah, do they shoot lasers out of their rings? Like, do they fly? Did they do anything? I don't understand. Like, did they just take it because they're cops, so they want to do a cop drama?
Yeah, pretty much. But it's what's his name? The guy who did. Oh, he was writing for DC for a while. Tom King, I think it is doing part of the writing for it.
I still believe Tom King's still working for the CIA. I think he's just like demoralizing comic fans. He's like, okay, we got to demoralize.
Although if I'm wrong, someone in the chat correct me. I think it's Tom King.
I read some Nexus, but I also got the new miniseries. Yeah, that's why I reread Nexus. I can't read because I forgot a lot of the details. So I'll reread Nexus to because it just bothers me that I read a lot of the later issues out of order and then with gaps in it. So I don't want to read the new stuff until I'm all caught up. Unicorn says Steve Root's channel is nice, good draw. Yeah, Steve. I had Steve on my channel. He's such a talented guy. Back then, being realistic didn't mean being depressive. Deconstruct the hero into nothingness. It's a ripoff of True Detective, so there are all kinds of time jumps. Okay. I like True Detective, but the first season anyway. But that was its own thing. Green Lantern should not be like True Detective. Some of the special are off screen. Of course, it's cheap. So the dude Green Lantern cheap. I think Chuck Dixon described Nexus as a Saturday morning cartoon show for adults. That's a pretty good way to describe it. That's a pretty good way to describe Nexus. We still live in an era of ideology. The system doesn't need to be actively centralized to have people do what they want. The programming does it. Well, I think that a slow shift is happening, but the people that wrote all the stuff for the past 20 years are still working. You know what I mean? So they need to leave and other people. So it's going to be a slow progress. If it is progressing back, it's going to be a slow march. It's a shame the Baron and Root partnership broke up. It is. It is. And they're both doing Nexus. So I think there's Mike Baron's Nexus and the Steve Rude's Nexus. I don't know if they're in the same continuity or if they're whatever, but that's I don't know. I just know Steve's a little difficult to work with. Gotta go for now. I'll catch up with you later. Have fun. See ya. You have fun on vacation with your family. So what Cosmic Comics are you talking about? I'll bring up some images.
Well, I always bring this up once again, John. If we're talking Green Lantern, we're talking Cosmic Comics. I really dislike John Stewart, and it's because of Cosmic Odyssey. But Cosmic Odyssey is like top tier cosmic galactic comic book story. Absolutely top tier.
Yeah, I still gotta read it. I gotta read it. It's sitting in my to read pile for years, and I never did read it. I thought I did, but that's just because I've been seeing it for so long in my collection. I'm trying to get a good image. Okay, here's a good image of Green Lanterns. I just look at this image, and I've been joking calling that show the Brown Lantern because brown just seems to be the primary color. You know, they're cosmic space. There's cosmic space cops that do whatever they want with this magic ring, flying to other planets, flying through galaxies. It should be closer to Star Wars than True Detective, but I don't know. I just don't understand with these people who make comic book, TV show, and movie decisions. Like, what do they think? What are they doing?
I think the real problem with it, well, of course, the good thing about Green Lantern is that they deal with galactic problems. Yes, they're supposed to be supposedly, galactic cops, but what they deal with on the cop beat is not whether someone else get murdered. It's whether who destroyed this planet, or why is the solar system missing, or something like that. Not some guy get killed in the bottom of a stadium. We're gonna go find out who did it.
Well, I know they're supposed to be space cops, but would it be fair to say they're like a space military force? Because they're not stopping bank robbers, or they're stopping cosmic conquerors, and I would love to see the Green Lanterns treated as like a G.I. Joe in space. I always say that the G.I. Joe comics, I avoided them as a kid, but now I'm reading them. I think I'm up to issue 6 of the first run. And what I'm really liking about it is the loyalty of the team. Like, nobody's going to betray them. They got each other's backs and stuff. I think like the Guardians of Oa should be like advanced enough and selective enough to pick like this cohesive team that there's no Judases, there's no backstabbing, and they can like, even when they meet somebody from an alien race that they've never seen before, they implicitly trust each other because of the selection process, or the ring itself, or the nature of becoming a Green Lantern, and they just go off. I think that would be a fun comic series to read and TV show, but I don't know. I was on a stream last night and they were talking about it, so I'm like third hand, and it just didn't sound fun. Like, comic books are supposed to be like child power fantasies, and it didn't sound like a child power fantasy.
There would be a really good story in there if you ask me, because thinking about it in what you just said, I go usually with the late 80s, early 90s description of the Guardians of Oa, which is that they had to order themselves so much, and then they ordered the universe. They had to order themselves so much because they became so mentally powerful that they could wipe things out just with a straight thought. So that's why they created the Green Lanterns, in order to establish some kind of order throughout the universe, as they did in their own minds. That would be a good story. I mean, they could even make it political, and it would be a good political backdrop story of how much order is too much order, right? In the galaxy, the imposition of order upon that would be a good show. I mean, and you could set it on different planets and use, like, I don't know, the what do you call it? I want to believe, set it in the desert one time because you're on a desert planet, go, near the water for a water planet. It's easy things that they could do to make a really good intergalactic story based upon these characters, but they just don't have the talent in order to write story. If you ask me,
I also think it's HBO, right? That the show is on. I
I think
think
so.
they've been contaminated with Game of Thrones. I mean, I don't know if there's sex or nudity in it, but like they want to have this shades of gray and then world building and like everybody's a conspirator or whatever. It's when it should just be Green Lanterns. It should be like, oh, Sinestro's gonna blow up that planet. Let's go. Uh,
Well,
I,
John Stewart is Shades of Grey Green Lantern. You can say that from the get go. If they wanted an actual superhero, I'm a hero Green Lantern, even I'm a fallen hero Green Lantern, they could go with another Green Lantern, but they had to have John Stewart.
Matthew, it's funny because I saw this comment that I skipped over because I thought he was making fun of me, but then I realized he's talking about John Stewart picked up an older woman in the bar. Yeah, again, I don't know the context. I didn't see the episode, but it just seems like picking up somebody else's wife in a superhero comic book like that's made to sell lunchboxes to children. It just seems like they don't know who their audience is. Like if you're making a Green Lantern show and you can't bring your 11-year-old daughter and son to watch it with you, you're not making a Green Lantern show.
No, I can remember the exact trope. I don't know. This is probably like 10 years ago in an FBI show. That's how the pilot started. The woman hooked up with some guy out of a bar, and then next day she meets up with him because he's part of the team. It's like they're just following, as far as I can see, anyways, just a stupid Hollywood script that was given to them and fill in the blanks.
Yeah, yeah. Tony Grigo says this. I completely agree. In the '60s, when John Broome wrote him, Hal Jordan was a maverick from Top Gun. After O'Neill got his mitts on him, I love the mitts. You know, he's peppering the sentence. He became a drifting loser, constantly apologizing for his white privilege. Yeah, I've said this before, and I said this. Where did I say this? I said it on stream last week, and everybody stopped and looked at me, and everybody got quiet. Danny O'Neill's not a good writer. He he's his politics permeates everything he writes, and he can't get away from it. I mean, everybody, myself included, I read his Question series, but read it again. The Question has like no solid victories, and the series ends with Hub City on fire, and the Question gets in a car and drives away and says, I can't save the city. It's too much for me. Like that's your idea of a hero? You know, like he's a great editor. He wrote a good Batman story every once in a while, but overall it's like, Denny, knock it off. You know, there's nothing wrong with being a white, successful, heterosexual man. Like, you know, I don't know what that girl in high school did that made you feel that way, but like that's a you problem. That's not a race problem. Jon Stewart is great in the animated series, but they could have done Hal for the live action. I heard it's about John. Yeah, I liked Jon Stewart. I haven't read Cosmic Odyssey yet, but I liked that he was like an architect and like he thought about his constructs as an architect. Like I like that they started to give each Green Lantern like an individual look for their, you know, Hal Jordan was just not a deep thinker. He was an action man. So all of his Green Lantern constructs were boxing gloves and cubes and squares and stuff. Whatever got the job done. While Kyle Rayner was an artist, you know, and I don't know the other ones too well. You know, I don't know that whole back row. That Green Lantern with the mask, the woman, the two women. I don't know. That's another thing. There's too many Earthling Green Lanterns. You know, isn't there only 3,600 of them? You know, so why are there so many on Earth? You know, what's so special about Earth? Did they ever do a story why Earth gets so many Green Lanterns? Because we already got Superman. You know, we don't need more Green Lanterns. I'm sure.
I would say they did touch upon it in Cosmic Odyssey, but it was never came back to it whatsoever. Earth is supposedly one of the cosmic focal points of the construction of the universe.
Ben Smart voice actor says someone should do a spoof of Green Lanterns in the vein of Cops. That would be kind of funny. You know, Cops. You know, so Green Lantern Corps. You know how we call police officers cops. What would be like a good shortened nickname for Green Lanterns? You know, I don't know, Greenies. You know, is that what the show's about? Is it about colonization and immigration? If that's the case, I'm never watching it. Anyone could use the ring. I remember Batman had a difficult time using the ring. On the spot, I can't think of a really honest, optimistic show. All I can think of is cynical to some degree. It's funny that you said that because if I may talk about the convention for a minute, again, I did my first comic convention this Saturday at Tropicon in Long Island with Vaughn Coleman, and I was showing people my comic. I'm sure a lot of people here from RJ's channel don't know my comic, Heroic Tales, and the main character is the patriarch, and he's, dare say it, a bearded heterosexual white man. And they looked at me and they said, "Oh, he reminds me of Omni-Man." And this happened over 20 times. And I said, "Yeah, but unlike Omni-Man, he's actually a good guy who loves his wife and kids." And they all went, "Oh, that's so refreshing." And they bought the comic. You know, average normies are tired of this too. You know, it's not just, oh, comic book fans are tired of this. Like, the average American is tired of this cynicism. Earth
It's
is
funny. I was just watching a video. It was a political video, but they're talking about how the Trump haters are aging out, as in the people coming up, the new voters are all like don't even remember when he first became president, and when they hear, you know, just he did this, he did this, he did this, and that's all your platform is, they tune out. And you can see, I think that's not the only place you see it. You see it a lot in right around you these days. Those people are aging out, and the new people are like, just shut up and give me something that I can either enjoy or use, one or the other.
My Hal Jordan is like a mix of what popped up with the Brave and the Bold animated show and the 20. I you know, when I was a wee kid, it was great. It was Hal Jordan, and Hal Jordan was just cool. You know, he was, you know, why can't I think of his name? Who's the guy that broke the land air speed record? You know, but he was an Air Force test pilot. He was cool. He was reckless. You know, he got the job done. He got out of the airplane, like, and he never took his ring with him, because if he had the ring with him, there was no danger. And if there was no danger, there was no fun. So he'd keep the ring in his locker. He would fly his airplane, get off, throw his helmet at the guy, and then kiss the girl. You know, he was a cool guy. That's what I want Green Lantern to be. That's what I expect Green Lantern to be. I don't want, like, supposedly this girl with the hair all the way in the back of the left. From what I heard, like, she's manic depressive, and I don't want to read that comic book. Chuck Yeager, thank you, Marcus. Chuck Yeager.
You're right. I mean, coming off the heels, I mean, it's a little bit far away, but with Maverick and doing so well, they could have done that with Green Lantern with Hal Jordan and made it a really good series that people would watch.
Right. And if I like, if they wanted an introspective space guy, I mean, I know that was DC, but I'm about to bring up an introspective space character that I thought was just an amazing run. Came out in the early 70s. Let me get a good image over here. Okay, here I'll get this, and I'm sure if Marcus is here, he knows exactly what I'm going to be bringing up. But this is, you know, Warlock. Jim Starlin, you know, he wrote, drew, Jim Starlin created Thanos. You can't get more cosmic than this. So, you know, Warlock was originally him. So he started with pronouns. So there you go. I didn't even think of that. Right? He started with pronouns, RJ. He would fit in perfectly with today. His pronoun was him. And he was created by Jack and Stan in the Fantastic Four. He came out, a conclave of scientists created him. And he was
a perfect human being, superior, right. I think it was.
Right. They wanted to have like a supreme being to actually worship. And he's vastly powerful. He went into space and fought the Fantastic Four. They literally killed him. And then he formed a cocoon, regenerated, came out, fought Thor. Thor literally killed him. He formed a cocoon. And now the High Evolutionary took him and since he was a supreme being, he made him like basically the savior of Counter Earth. And that was a weird story. And then they didn't really know what to do with him. And then Jim Starlin just put him on the far reaches of the Marvel galaxy and just made this. I don't want to spoil it. It's just, to me, one of the greatest Marvel epics, and literally an epic. And he's always like, what is going on? Why me? What is the nature of the universe? You know, kind of like Dragon Ball Z. Like, but I think this guy would have, and what a waste of the, what's his name, Zac Efron? Who's the kid playing him in the Marvel? Just like a goofy one-line throwaway joke. I don't know. But this would have been the ultimate movie. Chuck Yeager broke the sound barrier in a car, right? Or the song, yeah. Did he do the land speed record, or did he break it in an airplane? I forget. Movie The Right Stuff. Yeah, that's what Hal Jordan's supposed to be. Cool guy. You wanted to have a beer with him, and he wanted to have a beer with you, and then, you know, sneak off with the waitress. You know, he was a man's man. Was a bit of an inconvenience for Hal with the lantern job, but overall, he was a competent dude from what I remember. I don't have HBO, but I owned it. His Lantern's more of a murder mystery. Yeah, I think, and it's Hal Jordan that was murdered, right? I can think of his Hal sidelined to the 2010 show. That's a throwback for, yeah, Counter Earth. How is that like? Because every time I turned on Dragon Ball Z, it was always existential. Why do I exist? What is the nature of existence? That's all I really remember. I admit I didn't watch it, but I remember, like, at the time I was teaching kindergarten, and all the kids were like acting out Dragon Ball Z, and they were always like either fighting or questioning the nature of their own existence. Did you know that Jim Starlin got more for the KGB cameo in the Suicide Squad than he got for all? Wow. Yeah, I heard that DC is really good with the royalties, and Marvel's really stingy with the royalties. Chuck Yeager's X-1 rocket plane. Okay, I got to learn more of my American history. Did you read these comics, RJ?
I don't have the full run. I can remember reading some of them, although, you know, I certainly have. What is it? Everything that, like, I have before and after. I have all the him stuff from from Fantastic Four, and then I read all the stuff that came after the Infinity Gauntlet, when they had their own. He was the head of whatever team it was. I can't even remember off the top of my head. But that one, no, I don't have very many of those.
Yeah, they brought him back later on, but this was like his. Yeah, it was in Strange Tales, and then they did like a 12-issue or 15-issue run of Warlock. It's just, I mean, look at this beautiful Jim Starlin art, and it's so 70s. Where else are you going to get that big collar and shorts? You know what I mean? And then I don't want to spoil it by telling you his relationship with the Magus, but like, the Magus is just a great villain. You know, on par with Thanos, to the point even Thanos is kind of like afraid of the power of the Magus. You know, I if anybody's interested, I did a series called Two Beards, One Comic. It was Kelsey Shannon and myself just talking about this. We went through the whole series over a couple of weeks. It was a lot of fun.
Funny thing is, you know what I'm doing. Well, almost done. I had to redo because I'm a perfectionist, of course. My pages for your upcoming Crises on Independent Earths, and you want to know the visuals that keep popping into my head? It's Jim Starlin. That's the visuals that keep popping into my head to use, because he used panels so well and in an interesting way. And I'm starting off in space, right? So that is quite honestly what it keeps popping into my head, to try to make my panels go correctly.
So did I hear you right? What you're submitting for Crisis on Independent Earth is starting off in space?
Yeah, it has a page and a half in space.
Oh, cool. All right, yeah. Yes, send me your plot. I would hate you to write it all out and then like somebody else, or it's the exact same story as somebody else. That, you know, that's what I'm trying to do. Is there's 35 people contributing, and sometimes people are just literally doing beat for beat the same plot. I'm not sure about everything else. The best thing for Marvel I can think of recently, Marvel Rivals soft core shooter game. Isn't there like a Marvel Cosmic something, a fighting game that people seems to like? What was with the 70s shorts? A bit of shorts forgot. Yeah, the women wore shorts. That didn't bother me. But the men always wore these short gym shorts. You see them all the time back then. Nowadays, men wear like longer baggy shorts. I'm trying to think of,
Most men will say, John.
yeah.
I got friends of mine looking at me going, it's not 1981 when I go to the beach. It's like, put something on. Wait.
Yeah. Silver Surfer. Here's the ultimate, right? You can't talk cosmic comics without thinking about the Silver Surfer. So I'm gonna get just a good image of the Silver Surfer.
That was here's the thing. Okay,
I want from comics.
there's some really good Marvel cosmic books right around the whole Thanos Infinity Gauntlet stuff. You have Quasar on one side of it, and it comes a little bit to the other side of it. You have the Ron Lim Silver Surfer stuff, and you have Warlock, and I can't even remember the name of the book, where he has pretty much everybody from the movies, and they're a team, and they deal with the Infinity Gems after the whole thing. So there are spectacular Marvel galactic and intergalactic books. Some I didn't like at all, like the Nova. I never got into Nova as a character, but like Silver Surfer, definitely.
Yeah. Well, Silver Surfer. I remember I told the story a few times. It was first grade, so I'm trying to think what year that was, like 72, 73. And we were just drawing superheroes in our spare time. And one kid just drew what looked like a naked man on a surfboard. And I go, who's that? He goes, the Silver Surfer. And I never heard of him. And I said, that is not the stupidest concept for a superhero. I said it like a first grader. I didn't say it like that. And I was like, that is just so dumb. And I thought he made it up. I was like, there's no way there's a superhero called the Silver Surfer. That is just too stupid. And lo and behold, I was wrong. And it is kind of goofy when you first think of it. You know what I mean? Ask somebody who's never read a comic book, doesn't know anything, and you show them the Silver Surfer, and you're like, that's dumb. But I grew to love this character. You know, it's a lot of fun. And talk about another guy. I don't know what it is about Marvel comic guys, but this is another guy like, why am I trapped on this earth? What has fallen upon me? What's that?
Yeah, introspective character Silver Surfer was, sitting out in space, just watching, things explode and contemplating the nature of the universe and his own existence.
Yeah. Warlock's Infinity Gem team was called the Infinity Watch. I remember
That's
that.
it.
Yep. What about the Black Racer? The Black Racer's even worse. I never liked the Black Racer. It just, I mean, as much as I love Kirby, he did have a few misses. I don't know. Some people, I know Tony Grigo's getting mad right now. He's typing right now, but I never liked the Black Racer.
I never thought of it before, but he's supposed to be the Black Racer because he was a representation of death. But of course, they had to make him black as being the Black Racer.
Right. And I'm trying to think what oh, you mentioned Warlock. I mean, you mentioned Nova. I'll bring up a picture of Nova. But that first 25 issue run of Nova was okay.
Nova, I always thought was supposed to be Marvel's version of Green Lantern, and it never actually held up as well as Green Lantern, even though Green Lantern was always like a third tier in the 80s and 70s as a third tier superhero.
Yeah, Green Lantern wasn't that popular, but yeah, this it literally was Green Lantern's origin. A spaceship came and gave him the power. Instead of a ring, it gave him just power, and it was Peter Parker all over again. He was a high school teenager, except this time, instead of being the science nerd, he was a jock. So he was like a dumb jock. He got the powers of Nova, but he was a good kid. My problem with Nova is his powers weren't that good. His name was called Nova. And while Nova means new in Latin, it basically means an exploding star. That's what we think. But what does he do? He flies really fast. He's invulnerable and he's strong. You know what I mean? Like he needed like blast powers or explosion powers, or you know what I mean? But he didn't have it. And then he had this gigantic spaceship that just floated around in space for like most of the first series. And then later on, you learned a little bit about the Nova Corps, which was literally the Green Lantern Corps. I mean, it was Green Lantern, but not as cool, And but then he got forgotten about. This was what Marvel used to do. He had 25 issue series. It didn't really shake the world. It got canceled. He was forgotten about for 10 years until the second series came out, and then he became kind of interesting. Now he's like a mainstay. But what is there, like 3 or 4 different people named Nova now? I hate that.
Well, at the very least, I love the fact that old school Marvel, well, not just Marvel, but old school comics did that exact thing, John. Is you had a good 25 issue run. It didn't work out. Sorry, we're dropping your character.
Yeah. Like I said, I don't blame Marvel for trying. Even Stan Lee did. He made those girl comics. He made Night Nurse, Sheena the Jungle, and the Cat. And I don't know if there was one more, but he was just like, we need to get more girl comic book fans. And he tried them. Each one lasted 4 issues, and he canceled them. I don't blame you for trying. But one thing Stan didn't do is he didn't turn the Fantastic Four into women. You know what I mean? Even during the Stan's run, Sue left and was replaced by Medusa for a little while. Like they shook things up, but you knew the status quo was going to come back. But he didn't.
Okay.
It didn't work, so he tried.
Let me ask you this question since we're talking about intergalactic stories. Both of us are big Fantastic Four fans. What would you say was a better Fantastic Four sets of stories, where they're on the Earth or when they're in their intergalactic, whether it be, microverse or out in the middle of the galaxy or what?
I like the Fantastic Four as explorers. So,
Challengers of the unknown, basically.
Right. So I don't know if this is the answer you want, but I like them both. Like if they're exploring and pushing the boundaries of science, that to me is their niche. To me, the Fantastic Four isn't justice for super criminals, although they do stop bank robberies and stuff like that. But like the Avengers are super cops. The Defenders literally are like weird mystical stuff. They got Doctor Strange on there to guard them against Shub-Niggurath and all of these whatever that shows up. And then you had Daredevil and Spider-Man sweeping up street crime, and the Fantastic Four were like, okay, we're going to explore stuff. We found out that there's some threat coming from beyond Neptune. That to me was like, I loved Marvel back then in the 70s, 80s, and 90s, where each comic had its own niche and its own neighborhood and its own supporting characters. And once in a while, Spider-Man would show up, and it was cool. But like Spider-Man was busy with his own problems and his own little sphere of influence. Each comic had its own flavor. Since the Bendis days, it's just Marvel in every comic. Like everybody's friends, everybody knows each other's. Remember when nobody knew anybody else's identity? Remember when Iron Man kept his identity from the rest of the Avengers?
Spider-Man would put a paper bag over his head when he was with the Fantastic Four.
Right. He kept it a secret, and now they're all friends, they all trust each other, they all know each other. Like there's really no differentiation in Marvel anymore, and it kind of lost the fun. It was like a neighborhood of different houses, and once in a while you went to your friend's house and played, but most of the time you hung out in your own backyard. Tony Grigo says, I would love a comic series based on E. Doc Smith's Lensman. Yeah, but not now, not till the climate changes, because that's wonderfully dated. And the Lensman series is the direct inspiration for the Green Lantern Corps. At least there's no Cosmic Skater.
There actually is, but I don't remember his name off the top of my head.
Yes.
I'm sorry, Baz, but there actually is.
I'm starting to think you might be right. Yeah, it's on the prefrontal cortex. Like it doesn't want to. If the Silver Surfer cover was released today, there would be at least one person comparing it to the funny mustache man of Germany. Oh yeah, you think so?
Because he has his hand up.
Yeah. rotating your arm up is not basic anatomy, gestures. Yes, Nova was Spider-Man crossed with Green Lantern. Absolutely, absolutely. And I don't know. I think it was Marv Wolfman. Marv Wolfman, the last couple of issues, he was making this story with, like, they called themselves the New Champions, and there was just a real cool assemblage of oddball Marvel characters like Diamond Head and Dr. Sun, who is a robot with an android brain, or a human brain with an android body, and the Sphinx, one of my favorite Marvel obscure characters.
What was the name of that character, John? I think it was, what's his name that made the question, also made it. It's like he had a blue and silver costume. It was like he was a galactic hero. What the heck was the name of it? It was a Marvel hero, and he took over Spider-Man. He would, the power would jump from individual to individual.
Oh, Captain Universe.
Captain Universe. No, was it? It was Captain. I'll have to look it up.
Yeah, Captain Universe. Yeah, I'll get an image of it. Yeah, that was created from the Microverse, the Micronauts comic. It was the embodiment of the Enigma Force. I'll find it. But I liked and then it just got canceled, and they finished it in the Marvel, in the Fantastic Four. It was just a bizarre, and it ended up being one of my favorite Fantastic Four comics, Galactus versus the Sphinx. I've always wanted to do something like that in my own comics, some sort of homage to that comic. Oh yeah, so this is who you're talking about. I'll bring down this, and I'll bring up this. Right?
Absolutely. Yep, that's exactly the image I'm thinking of.
Universe. The hero that could be you, RJ. So there was in the Microverse, there was, the Micronauts had it was a ripoff of Star Wars, and I loved it. It was great. Michael Golden artwork, Bill Mantlo writing. And there was the Enigma Force, and they were the Force. They were these mysterious priests, and turns out they were the time travelers. They were all one same being traveling through time, which I thought was amazing. And it bestowed upon a worthy person the power of Captain Universe, basically power cosmic. And it just jumped for whoever was worthy at the time. So somewhere in the universe, Captain Universe is somebody. Maybe on planet Nebulon 6, maybe Earth. And then, of course, when Jonathan Hickman took over the Avengers, it permanently became a black woman, because why not? She's the most perfect being in the universe. So, Captain Universe was, the best thing in the world, we all know, is a black woman. Yep. Goliath was white, Black Goliath was black. How you doing? I'm the Pro, Incubus Time Lord. Nova's Xandorian Centurion uniform gave him super speed, correct flight, and the power to become a living projectile, which is why Nova was called the Human Rocket. Yes. Yep. Writing all new characters is arcade lost tech. I forgot. Now we can only do remake. That is a good point. RJ, what do you think about this? This unicorn just gave me something to think about. Coming up with new characters, is this a lost art?
I don't know, because that's a good question, because
stop being my track.
I use that's what I always tried to do. I try to use a better version of an older character in order to try to write something that I think should exist. Very few of my characters have had enough traction yet to basically become something unto themselves. I think that, well, I'll answer your question this way, Unicorn. Even the comic companies themselves used to start off with reprints of old comics until people got used to their name, and then they would start creating new things every once in a while, and then they would get on their feet that way and start writing characters that were quote unquote original. But it's the same way, not just with the comic companies, but with the characters themselves. Most comic characters are a ripoff of some other character that that they saw doing well, and then it had to have enough time to develop into its own character. So that's the way comics worked for so long. I mean, almost every character. Fantastic Four is Challengers of the Unknown. Captain America is the Shield. Spider-Man is Superman. Batman is the Shadow. Every character just needs to come out. That's the way comics has always worked. So maybe it was just never a lost art. Maybe it's just the fact that nobody sticks with it long enough now for them to develop into an actual character onto themselves.
Yeah, I, I you gave me time to think about this. I think it's a problem that the comic companies created themselves. So as much as I want to blame the editors and the writers, it's I think, I don't have the high opinion of most the new comic book writers. But I think they're smart enough to realize if I just give my new characters and put it in the Marvel comics, I'm gonna get screwed just like Jim Starlin for Thanos. You know what I mean? So if I was to write for Marvel, you know they called me up. Hey John, you're right. Why don't you write the Fantastic? I'm not bringing any of my characters over. I'm not giving them to Marvel. And now they're in a movie and I get screwed. So I think part of the reasons why we're not seeing new comic book characters, like he says, is because there's no incentive to. Like look at Robert Kirkman. That guy's every 6 months he's launching a new comic with an entirely new franchise. Rick Remender has a million new But Marvel and DC, what was the last original comic book character? And when I say original, I mean I'm not just Spider-Man in a wheelchair or gay Captain America with the garbage can lid. You know what I mean? Yeah. So I think they screwed themselves like that.
Also,
I'm sorry.
add to that is the fact that, like they're basically IP farming is all they're doing for the main comic companies right now. So they're just trying to keep alive old characters. That on top of the fact that, trademark is so screwed up because of Disney that, yeah, you have the problem that you're talking about right now, John, is the fact that if you lose in negotiations to a giant company and they take your character, it's gone. It's gone for your lifetime.
Yeah. And, look at Jim Starlin had to sue. Jack Kirby had to sue. Gary Friedrich for Ghost Rider, he had to sue. I don't know what deal if Chris Claremont made any money for the X-Men movies and stuff, because he technically didn't really create those guys. That was Len Wein and Dave Cockrum created the new X-Men, and then he took it over. So and he for 20 years, I mean, I'm sure he created lots of characters, but did he make any money when the movies came out? So, RJ, me and you are working for Marvel. I wouldn't bring any of my characters there because, but the thing is, Marvel has so many cool characters. I could play with them for a long, long time and be happy. So I think that's part of the reasons why new characters is a lost art. And I don't blame the writers for that. That's actually pretty smart. But I do blame, and I brought this up a few times, RJ made me realize this, I blame progressivism. Because progressivism is collectivism, and collectivism doesn't care about the individual, it cares about the group. So Steve Rogers isn't important. What's important is Captain America, and anybody can be Captain America. That's the importance. So who cares? They just transplanted over 40 different characters. It's still Captain America because the individual is not important.
And I have to say, Unicorn, as well as that, when I used to listen to all the Marvel podcasts, I would hear lines like writers saying, and then I was given the list of characters I was allowed to use. So this is coming from the top, right? Here's a list of characters, write a story with this list of characters. That's it.
Oh, yeah. So I'll say it's twofold. One fold is because they don't care about individuals. And second, why bring your toys over to somebody else's house if they're just going to claim them?
Third, if you're a progressive, stolen valor is absolutely a thing.
If there's a cosmic skater, Silver Surfer, skater should be a superhero. Yeah, they should get all of like the super sporters. You know what I mean? Like, on one team, that would be kind of funny. Who was the artist on that Nova cover? Marcus, correct me if I'm wrong, but that was Sal Buscema, correct? That was Sal Buscema who drew the cover for Nova. He would, as far as I know, he was the artist on most of the 25 issues. Captain freaking Universe. Captain should be a local champion, not the universe. when he got the power, the first time Captain Universe showed up in Marvel Comics, it was a kid's dad, and the kid named him Captain Universe, and he just went with it. And then, in a couple of issues later, that kid became Captain Universe. And guess what? Guess what he did? He made a cosmic skateboard, and he was flying all over his neighborhood in a skateboard. So Captain Universe, his second appearance, he had a flying skateboard. Yep, Fantastic Four 163 debuted at guard. He was a space hockey goalie. It was so bad. In the What If story, Dazzler became the Herald of Galactus, and she had cosmic roller skates. Oh God, yeah, that Dazzler is the ultimate '70s character. I never liked Dazzler. Like when she debuted, I was like, oh, this is kind of cool. I hope she doesn't become an X-Men. I don't know. She just didn't seem like they knew what to do with her, and they still don't know what to do with her.
Yep. I do like Dazzler in so much as if in her blue costume X-Men era with Longshot, I did like the character.
What I thought was interesting about Dazzler, I kind of thought it was cool that we had a mutant and she automatically didn't become a superhero. You know what I mean? She was just like, I still just want to be a singer. Like she used her mutant power. Like how many, I still believe that the average person, if they found out to be a mutant, they would just basically use that mutant ability to enhance their own life. You know what I mean? Like, oh, I got telekinesis, how can I profit off this? How can I make my life better? Like, not how can I fight justice? How can I serve justice? Maybe am I cynical for thinking that way, RJ?
No, you're actually right, because that was the whole plot of Dazzler. She wanted to use her light powers along with her voice to become a superstar, and that was it.
Zach Dad is asking, have all the characters been used, all the band names taken? It may be harder to come up with original ideas, but adapting archetypes to new situations has been going on for. I will say absolutely 100% no. And the reason why no is I came up with, I wanted to, okay. Oscar, my colorist, he wants to do like a children's book, meaning an all ages comic book. And he's got a wonderful style for that. And he does El Mysterio. It's an all ages comic in Mexico, which I think will also be partaking in the Crisis on Independent Earths. Oscar will do his own 3 pages. But I was thinking about that. So I came up with a team of sidekick superheroes. So that I came up with 6 sidekicks, one of them being Kid Gimmick. If you watch my channel, I've been talking about Kid Gimmick for a while. You can actually watch me develop the idea. So he's going to be one of them. He's the only one who's not a sidekick. I take it back. There's 2 that's not side, but all the rest of them are sidekicks. So I had to come up with their adult counterparts. So I came up with 12 superheroes that I think every one of them is great. Now, yes, I'm biased because I came up with them, you know what I mean? But it's just fun. And if RJ, you read my script that I sent you for the Independent Earths. How many superhero concepts did I throw names in that? What's his name? Mark Polton said that I have a unique. Oh no, it was Bill Williams said I have a unique gift for coming up with superhero names.
You do. No, let me just tell everyone in the chat right now. Okay, I read some of John's stuff before he ever releases it to anyone else. John absolutely comes up with great ideas and great heroes.
My problem is I got to work on my dialogue. That is my weakest part. But so at the risk of tooting my own horn, it's so easy to come up with a superhero concept. A name for a team, that is tough. I will give you that one. But I came up with the name for a super team that I'm not telling anybody until the comic's out because I don't want anybody to steal it. And it's so obvious. And that's 6 superheroes. And then I made up a whole organization of villains to fight them, all while driving to work. I had to dictate it onto my phone before I lost the ideas. And then I told that to Brian Bow, and he was like, drop what you're doing and do that. Forget everything else, do that. So that's how much he liked it. It's fun. But again, if I was to write to Marvel, which, if you're going to dream big, I would never bring any of this stuff to Marvel. Not unless they brought back like Epic Comics where you own the rights to your own stuff. Because what is the benefit? you're gonna do 6 issues of a low selling comic book, then it gets canceled, and the next thing you know, 4 years later, somebody else is writing your character, except they're transgendered and and they hate Trump. You know what I mean? It's like I'm not giving them my new characters. But these are interesting questions. That's RJ. I don't know about you, but I love the comments on our shows every Wednesday.
I do too.
Yeah, I'm raised in these current dark ages. To me, to be new is just to be so niche and spun off that thing based off of. Yeah, I mean, like I said, people were happy when I was telling them that the patriarch actually loved his wife and kids. They were like, "Really? Oh, that's so good." Then they bought the comic. Creators receive credit for creating, but no royalties. Yep. How's it going, Massive Panda? I'm doing really good. I think Venom 3 teased Null of King of the Symbiotes. Tony says, John, I noticed Gun Superman in that horrible My Adventures with Superman show that the S shield is completely different than it was traditionally. Why is that? Cynically, I think it's a business move because Superman is getting dangerously close to public domain. So if they change the symbol, and maybe they could sell action figures that are different. Like little kids like, I don't want that. That's not the Superman that I want. I want this Superman. Oh yeah, the worst part wasn't Guard an alternate Johnny Storm. I think you're right. I forgot about that. We're coming up to that at my Sunday comics. Oh, Nova's cover was drawn by Rich Buckler and Joe Sinnott. John Buscema drew the first 2 issues, then Sal took over. Okay, thank you, Marcus. Rich Buckler, yeah, Rich Buckler. I'm a fan of Rich Buckler, but he is heavily influenced by who inks him. And Joe Sinnott is one of my favorite inkers.
And I'm a fan of the Buscema's, but fun, light action comic for teenagers is not their wheelhouse.
I think John Buscema is more man's man stuff, like Conan,
Absolutely.
Westerns and War. He did the superhero stuff, but he did Tarzan and John Carter. Whereas I think Sal Buscema, he could do superheroes pretty well. But
John, for John Buscema, the only real superhero that I think he did, again, talking about Cosmic Heroes, was Rom, because of the fact that the people that he drew were always in the background. The dire wraiths were infiltrating, and you'd see, be able to tell by their faces who was good and who was not.
right, yeah, I tell the story a lot. Marcus, I had the girl getting jumped, and I said, by Sal Buscema thugs, and he knew exactly what I was talking about. They got that awful face that he would draw. They could only be, a face only a mother could love. Is the team the Raven Brigade? No, not at all. I got two teams. One is a group of 40 superheroes that their legacy is going to continue now, and then a team of sidekicks now. So that should give you 2 clues. Hey, Zaid Comics, how you doing? This is Phil Diaz. He's making my proof copy, my second proof copy. I just wanted to test something out, and then if all goes well, this guy will be printing my comics. And check out Man with No Strings. Man with No Strings is a phenomenal comic. At the risk of being overly excited and happy and talking about the same thing, Zaid Comics will be doing 3 segments in the Crisis on Independent Earths. He'll be doing for the Lost Pages, for the Man with No Strings, and Magic Cop. So, this guy is going to be heavily part of what I think is going to be the most exciting independent comic book event of we'll say next year. An actual heroic hero who doesn't resent his own responsibilities, has a family, loves them, and has wholesome value. Your comic has absolutely no place in mainstream. Yeah, I know. Unfortunately, you're right. Champions was a strange super team to me. I think the new Warriors have potential, but poorly written. Yeah, the Champions was a weird comic, and it only lasted 14 issues, 13 issues. Black Widow, Ghost Rider, Angel, Iceman, and Hercules, right?
Yep.
And they were in California. I don't know, but it's just weird to me when a Marvel comic is set anywhere but New York. Even on the moon is more normal than L.A. Do you remember when Daredevil and Black Widow moved to San Francisco for a while?
They couldn't find buildings to
Right.
to jump between.
Right. Well, they would have to get like a Daredevil mobile, and then they would sit in traffic. Right. There are a couple of buildings in San Francisco, but like they would have to swing in like the same 4 block area. Hey, Brian, how you do? Brian's another guy's participating in the Crisis on Independent Earths. He's going to be bringing Six Gun Gorilla into the mix. I can't wait. Can't wait. John had a long run on Festic before he didn't mind drawing Thor when he was in Asgard. Yeah, John Buscema. Yeah, he liked drawing the Fantastic and Conan and stuff. It's in the post. It's in the post. That my proof is in the post. Super Chatter of the Year, Garfield. The Champions was always intended to be an oddball team. Yeah, there was like no purpose that held them together. You know, the Fantastic Four were family. The Avengers were like the greatest heroes for a threat. The Defenders were kind of like, they basically just needed a place to live in Doctor Strange's mansion, you know. And then the Champions, they were like, a bad guy attacked while they were all like at UCLA, and then they're like, let's stay together. I did like the West Coast Avengers. Yeah, it turned out to be an important comic in the grand scheme of things as well. But that's John Byrne for you.
Yep, absolutely.
I was working on the script for No Strings Crisis today. I love it. And guys, there's still people have been asking me, is it too late to join? No, it's not too late to join. The last day that you could, if you could do it all, join and get your stuff in by January 1st. It's not too late. You know, January 1st is the cutoff. You know how it is. You gotta make a cutoff. Otherwise people will like, oh, but I want to join. The Champions is the creation of Tony Isabella. So he made the Champions, and he also made Black Lightning. Gene Colan killed the art in those Daredevil Black Widow comics. I think I said something in It's Clobbering Time a couple of weeks ago where I said Gene Colan was no good at superheroes, but he was good at horror and suspense. And then after the stream, I realized he did amazing Daredevil comics. But like, Gene Colan is one of the most underrated Daredevil artists. He's absolutely atmospheric and dark and moody. Like, Daredevil. If you're not doing Daredevil dark and moody, you're not doing Daredevil right.
Yeah, when he did the Avengers and Captain America, it was iffy.
He did an early run on Captain Marvel, and it was awful. It was just awful. You could tell his heart was not in it. You know, the spaceship's designs were just like, you know, like, I don't know, just weird. Brian Costell says, this is the first time hearing about we have more than one character. I got several in this chamber. If you want to do more than one character, you know, because we're saving all the universes. So Zaid Comics has more than one universe. As far as I know, the Lost Pages is its own universe. Magic Cop is its own universe. And The Man with No Strings is its own universe. So Phil doesn't want any of his characters to die, so he's taking care of all of his universes. I have more than one universe, but I don't know if I'm gonna. But you know, Public Eye is gonna represent my universe. You know, I don't know who RJ is gonna. Do you want to tell, or do you want to keep it a secret?
No, I'll tell. I'm doing it with Thomas Fallion.
Okay, that's what I figured, but I didn't want to spoil it. Yeah, so Brian, if you want to do, but remember, you're doing, you know, if you want to do 3 pages and you want to do 6 pages with 2 different characters, you know, that's on you. You're welcome to do it. All right, Chuck Dixon is doing 2. I'm going to say no to Chuck Dixon. Chuck Dixon is doing My Sister Suprema, and then he's doing Airboy, Skywolf, and Valkyrie. You know, I'm going to say no. I'm going to say no to that. Colan is the most underrated Marvel artist right after Mike Ploog. Oh, man, Mike Ploog is so good. I just caught up on, I got every issue up to the first appearance of Moon Knight, of Werewolf by Night. And when Mike Ploog left, the quality of that comic dropped. Mike Ploog is such a good artist. Another one is read the first run of Doctor Strange, Master of the Mystic Arts. The first 25 issues or so by Frank Bruder. Oh my God, that's another guy. He's such a great artist. I had Gene Colan as a teacher at a student of School of Visual Arts for 3 years. Colan created the original Guardians of the Galaxy. Yeah, yep, he did. Yes, he did. That there's like, the Guardians of the Galaxy in the movie are nothing like the original Guardians of the Galaxy. And then when they brought in the original Guardians of the Galaxy, they're still nothing like them. I was planning on releasing at least 3 new IPs this year, but I loaned money to the wrong person at the wrong time.
Mhm.
Neither a borrower nor a lender be. That's one of my philosophies is I don't lend money. Sorry to any friends who ask me. I don't borrow money, and I pay my bills immediately. Ask any of my artists. I scolded one of them for like, why did you tell me you submitted 2 pages? You should have told me. I would, you know what I mean? Crom shows up and destroys the universes instead of saving them. That would give him a glorious death, right? Just to.
Yeah, that would.
I just want to ask: has Crom ever actually worn silk? Does he know what he's missing? Silk. Those issues of Man Thing by Plug were filled. Yes, absolutely. The original Guardians of the Galaxy had character that switched between a man and a woman. Yes, Starhawk. Even when I was younger, I was put off by that concept. Yes, it's a husband and a wife that somehow merged. I forget Starhawk, the one that knows. And I really liked, if you read the 80s or 90s Guardians of the Galaxy, they tied it all up into a time travel and they closed that loop. And I just love that when they fix a time travel loop. They did such a good job of that.
I think the weirdest thing about Starhawk was that they wear the same uniform, and it works on the wife, but not on the husband.
Well, they had the blue uniform, and then it turned like right
Gold
now.
and white.
Yeah,
after a while.
this is before the gold and white uniform. But like when he turns into Aaliyah, she's just wearing like regular civilian clothes. She doesn't get a costume yet. I'm talking about Avengers 169. That's where I'm up to in my Saturday series of Avengers Assemble. I love Klaus Janson on St. George. Yeah, Klaus Janson, wonderful inker. He's famous for inking Frank Miller for the longest time. Very, very stylistic.
Is St. George actually part of Marvel now? Because I know that Terror Incorporated became part of Marvel. Did it not?
Did it? I don't know.
Anybody in the chat knows that? Let me know.
I don't know. Yeah, St. George was what was the name of that imprint?
It was prestigious. It was part of the Epic line, if I remember, in graphic novel form.
Yeah, it was hardbound prestige format comics. For those of you who don't know prestige comics, if you got the original Dark Knight Returns, that they called that prestige printing. I think we call it square bound today. Yeah, St. George. Wow, that takes me back. I think I read that originally when it came out. Shadowline, that's the name. Yes, Shadowline was the imprint. That's right. Then I think Shadowline got it failed and they rolled it into Epic. That's right. Jensen was to Miller, with Terry Austin was to Byrne. Yeah, yep. And then Lynn Varney was their colorist, right? And Frank Miller's wife. And then they had a really bad divorce. Did she like steal his art or something like that? Domestic squabbles. Any other cosmic heroes? I mean, I know we're kind of straying, but this is kind of fun. Captain
Again,
Ego.
we talked about this before, but I always loved Quasar. The new
Oh,
Quasar that they came up with in the 80s, that was great.
It's funny because Quasar. Oh, yeah, I'm getting scientific Quasar. I guess I should put Marvel Comics. Quasar is another ripoff or homage of a Green Lantern, right? Like
Because you can make was basically if anybody's watched the Kamala Khan television show where she can make light constructs, that's basically Quasar's power. So they ripped off Quasar there.
Right. So he has these. Well, first there was Marvel Boy, who was an original Marvel character back from Atlas times, and Marvel Boy was something Mark Grayson, I think was his secret identity, and his father was a scientist, and he had those bands, and all they really did was flash. Really, he was like he was raised in a satellite on Uranus. It's just so weird to say that. And came to Earth, and he fought crime with these bands that flashed light. So he would blind you and then beat the crap out of you while you were blind. And then then they kind of like brought him back, and he went mad and unlocked his powers and became super powerful and blew up. And then they said that that wasn't him, that was somebody else. And now in the comic series Agents of Atlas, they brought him back, but he's been on like surgically altered to exist on in the gas planet of Uranus. I know it sounds really weird, but meanwhile the bands were left with Project Pegasus, and why can't I think of his name, his secret identity? But Wendell Vaughn, he took these bands somebody was fighting, and the last three people who tried to put them on blew up, like the Blue Marvel. That was the crazy one that blew up, and he put them on, but he didn't put them on to be aggressive. He put them on to be a defender and a protector, and the bands accepted him. I thought that was pretty cool. And now he has like the quantum bands, aren't they? They linked to a quasar somewhere in space, and it gives him unlimited power, you know, and he could fly, force fields, project himself. He's basically a Green Lantern, but I don't know, without the green and the backstory. I always liked this character. This was a fun series.
It was a good hero series too. That's one of the things about the cosmic characters, and they have a whole lot of like Green Lanterns. They got a whole lot of them. Quasar was a really good Marvel character-driven story, along with the cosmic element to it. And by the way, Brian, I was thinking the exact same thing when you put that comment up about Omega. I was just about to search it up.
Omega the Unknown?
Yeah.
From Marvel, that Steve Englehart character? Are we talking about the same character?
That's the guy's character I was thinking of.
Yeah, he was kind of in Howard the Duck. See, I forget how he ended, because it got canceled. Omega the Unknown his run got canceled, and then they finished it in Howard the Duck, and I honestly don't remember how it ended. So could he be considered a cosmic hero? My answer is I don't remember. I'm sure Marcus knows everything. How about Fletcher Hank Stardust, the Super Wizard? Is this another Golden Age character, Tony? I don't know. Bill Everett created Marvel Boy in the 50s. Yep. There's a Marvel Super Action reprint of him that was, I got it as a little kid, and I always loved that character. So I've always loved this character. Yeah, Steve Gerber. If anybody's familiar with Steve Gerber, he was a guy that was very inventive, very creative, but man, did he needed an editor, because he would just drift, and you gave Steve Gerber an inch, he would take a mile, and just read some of the stuff in Howard the Duck. And then he got fired from Howard the Duck for being too weird. And then Marvel, see, he created Howard the Duck. He wrote Howard the Duck. It was like his guy, and then Marvel fired him off of it. You know what I mean? What a shame. That's why I would never bring my own characters to Marvel. And then he wrote a series called Hard Time for, I think it was for Image or Vertigo, I forget. And it was really good. It was really bizarre. It was in jail, but like with like superpowers and everything, and it just got canceled, and he just rushed the ending. It was a shame, because I was really enjoying that series. And then he died. Yeah, Gerber was always late. He was a pot smoking hippie. What do you want me to say? He got fired from the Defenders. He was famous for that elf with a gun, and he never told anybody how that story was going to get end. Every once in a while, yep, Tony Grigo says, yep. The elf with the gun, he just looked like a Keebler elf or a Christmas elf, and he just had a revolver, and he was killing people. And when he quit, when he got fired, he was just like, oh, how is elf with the gun going to end? And he's like, figure it out for yourself. So they just had him get hit by a car, and that was the end of it. Gerber wrote Sludge from Malibu. He teamed up with Jack Kirby to do Destroyer Duck. Yes, when he got fired for Howard the Duck, he did Destroyer Duck. And that was one of the first direct market comics. And if I remember correctly, it sold like 200,000 copies. It really gave Jack Kirby a payday. It gave Gerber a payday. And it was the first appearance of Gru the Wanderer. It was a big deal. I remember buying that. I was basically told to buy it when I was working at the comic store. But Larry, I call him the comics pusher. He was like, "You're buying this to help Jack Kirby." And I was like, all right, don't have to twist my arms to give me a reason to buy a comic book. I think it lasted like 6 or 7 issues or so. Yeah. Do you remember that issue in Quasar when he was being tortured, and they wanted him to give up information, and they were just hitting him,
Whipping him. Yeah.
yeah, whipping him, and he, they were like, "Why would this guy?" I always thought that was like a great hero moment.
Yeah, if anybody wants to know what, if I remember the scene correctly, they cut off his hands to try to get the bands off, and they still couldn't get them off. Then they strung him up to whip him, and they said, "Count for us, and we're going to hit you like 200 times," and he would not go past one.
Yeah, one. He just kept saying, "Yeah, when you get to that number, we'll stop." And he kept, yeah. And I also remember there was a villain called Maelstrom, and I always thought it was interesting because Maelstrom, one of his parents was an Inhuman, and another parent was a deviant. So he was technically a mutant because he wasn't either, right? So I thought that was like all the little offshoots of humanity tied together in one character. I would just love to work for Marvel and like be the main editor as far as continuity, like explain everybody the differences between the Inhumans and the Deviants, and all of those little offshoots.
That was funny, John. Just as an aside here, one of my friends went to go see, they went to the drive-in and Spider-Man was playing, and they had absolutely no idea about Spider-Man whatsoever. And he said, so I decided halfway through the movie, I'd look up the lore to see what the heck was going on because they didn't understand anything. After about 15 minutes of reading, I said, I'm done with this.
The new Spider-Man movie?
Yeah. He said, this is just too complicated. I'm done.
Yeah.
He noped out.
I think Marvel Comics has shot themselves in the foot with I think the blip was a bad idea. That they should have just closed the loop. Tony Stark. 5 years of everybody died. And then when they do that, he just brought everything back. It makes it unnecessarily complicated. Now they're folding in all of these alternate Earths, and now I think this Doomsday is just going to take all these Earths and streamline everything. In 20 years of Marvel movies, they made it just as complicated as 70 years of Marvel Comics. I think that was a mistake. They never should have done all of this multi-worlds and everything.
Okay, let's go. If we want to go back to cosmic, but here's something. I always like the Omni-Mind, but I never really liked the Eternals very much, except when they're basically part of Thor comics. But the other, what the heck was that I was just thinking of? Because you were talking about the deviants and all that kind of stuff. There's some cosmic characters that never really worked in Marvel, and I don't know, but the Eternals always worked as the secondary characters. If they're like you had Ceres, I think it was, in the Avengers and stuff like that. What did you think of them as like cosmic characters?
I love the Eternals. I love the whole story of it. I loved everything about the Celestials and the deviant stuff, but it should never have been folded into Marvel. For 19 issues and one annual, it was its own corner of the Marvel universe. It didn't become part of Marvel, I think, until Roy Thomas started writing Thor, when he introduced Celestials into Thor years later. If you remember, in issue 2 of the Eternals, they made a Hulk robot because they wanted to push the sales of the Eternals, but they couldn't use the Hulk. So in that universe, scientists made a cosmic-powered Hulk robot for the Eternals to fight, just to drive up sales, but they couldn't use the Hulk because Jack Kirby was like, this isn't Marvel Comics. And then later on, I think Dan Slott brought the cosmic-powered Hulk robot into one of his stories because, like it or not, he does know his Marvel history. He just chooses to be weird about it. But I think, to me, the biggest problem with the Eternals is how do you have Zuros and Athena and all of these characters in the same universe with Zeus and Athena? They're redundancies. I know they gave some crummy explanations, but they were never satisfying explanations. Like, you can't have the Greek gods and the Eternals, because the Eternals were the gods. But I love them. I love the concept of the Celestials. I think the Celestials in the Marvel Universe kind of works good. But, I don't know. Just how do you have Zuros, Athena, Ajax, I'm trying to think of all their names, Macarai, in the same universe with Greek gods, and how are they going to do that in the Marvel Universe? Because they already introduced Zeus, but you know, they had the Eternals movie, like it had Thena. Is she going to be Russell Crowe's daughter? You know, so that they're setting themselves up for unnecessary complications. Did that guy who created How the Duck created a knockoff of his comics called Mickey the Rat? He turned, I think he did, but Disney told Marvel that they couldn't have Howard the Duck comics anymore, so he had a Marvel Max, like, you know, when Marvel temporarily had an adult line of its own comics, and he got magically turned into a rat. So it was Howard the Duck, but he looked like a degenerate Mickey Mouse. That was his FU to Marvel. Brian Christow says it was Gerber's death from smoking that was the catalyst for me quitting smoking. I didn't know that's what killed him. I didn't know that. I know he did die young, and I didn't look into it.
All right, so I'm going to switch gears here. Can't do a galactic discussion without talking about Legion of Superheroes, one of my favorite groups.
Absolutely. I'm going to find a good Legion of Superheroes picture. Oops. Which era are you going to bring up?
Here's the funny thing. I've said this over and over again, but if you look at 80s, early 80s DC comics, they were awful. A lot of them were awful. But the cover art, if you could base a story off of the cover art, it was spectacular. Just, I don't know how DC screwed up so badly to have the most beautiful covers, to tell a story with one picture, and then all of a sudden, just you open the book and it's garbage. I don't know. I always bought the Legion of Superheroes then, trying to like it, but it wasn't until the end of the Giffen run and then the lead into the destruction of the Earth that actually got me hooked on Legion of Superheroes.
Yeah, the Legion of Superheroes to me was the comic that I brought up whenever my friend Mike wanted me to read DC. You know, back before the Crisis on Infinite Earths, like, you should read DC. I was like, Bouncing Boy, Lightning Lad, Matter Eater Lad. And he was just like, knock it off. You know, so this was, and then we went camping one year and I read all my comics. He was showing me all the comics that led up to and after the Great Darkness. So he had like a stack of like 10 or 12 Legion comics, and I just fell in love with them. They were so good. I can't recommend that enough, to the point where I've been buying. So I got pretty much like all the Legion comics, like maybe up to 2000, and then I went back. I go back and get some. I gotta finish the holes of my collection and then sit down and read. So I didn't really read the Legion of Superheroes too much back before the Dave Cockrum and Mike Grell times. So I've been filling in holes. I'll go back and read them. But now I love the whimsy and the childlike look of the universe. Like now I'm liking a lot of this Silver Age DC whimsy. It's refreshing, and all of these, you know, you watching a Green Lantern show and the guy's sleeping with somebody else's wife. You know what I mean? That's a superhero. You know what I mean? I'm like,
I'll have to say, I think the Legion of Superheroes absolutely changed the entire course of comic history, because Jim Shooter was working on it and he secretly wanted to introduce continuity into DC Comics when it was absolutely forbidden, but he did it anyways. And that gave him that trying to keep him away from continuity while he was working at DC, working on Legion of Superheroes, I think gave him the absolute drive that he had when he took on Marvel and put continuity in its place for the entire line.
Yeah, I can't argue with that. Yeah. And he was a 14-year-old kid trying to make money for his family. Tony has love the Eternals. That was Jack Kirby riffing on Eric Von Däniken. RJ, do you think Von Däniken's hypothesis was even remotely true? I have no idea. The only words I understand in this sentence are Eternals and Jack Kirby. So
yeah, you'd have to expand a little bit more on it, Tony.
Yeah. So Tony thinks we're smarter than we are, RJ. I'm still afraid to do Legion of Superheroes. I hope it goes back to the original and leaves that Bendis fiasco behind. Yeah. I don't know. I saw pictures of Lightning Lad's now a girl. You know, they got too much purple and green as though, like, I'm a big fan of the color purple, but like that, it looks like pastel. It looks like the art for modern D&D. I'm wary. I'm wary of it. Live action Legion of Superheroes on WB was lame. Yeah, but look at. I wish I could make this bigger. Unfortunately, I can't. But
Yeah, there was a let's say I think it was like um 3-4 episode story arc where Legion of Superheroes appeared in Smallville. I think that they can be done at the very least marginally, according to that, anyways, and watching it marginally well on the big screen or on the screen, whether it be big or small.
yeah, I think they could do it, and I think
The idea of the science police alone is something that you could just use for the backdrop of an entire show, if you ask me.
as I'm looking at this, who's that big green woman in the back? I don't know that character.
That one I don't remember. She that was a very limited character from that run.
And the Legion of Superheroes didn't take itself as seriously as the Fantastic Four. Yeah, because they were kids. They were kids. You know, I that's what I liked. At first, I thought it was goofy, but then I really grew to like I said, the playfulness nature of it, the optimistic. That's the word I'm looking for. The optimistic nature of this team. You know, and then they kind of introduced like a lot of cynicism and everything, which to me just made it like every other comic. Trying to look for more.
I'm looking for one specific cover that I love this book. Where the heck is it? It was a wraparound cover, and I think it was from Superboy and the Legion of Superheroes. It's where they're all enslaved. That here I found it. I'll see if I can pull it up.
But yeah, this is the Legion that I remember. You know, I love all these characters. Ultra Boy, Timberwolf, who's basically Wolverine. Tony says he doesn't work without Superboy. I gotta say, DC kind of shot themselves in the foot when they declared that there was no Superboy, and then John Byrne made some sort of pocket dimension Superboy so they could still have. It's like, guys, Marv, DC. It's like the Crisis. You really messed up with the Crisis, if you ask me. It made DC more complicated than it needed to be. Okay, I'll bring down my image. And I'll bring up your image. Oh, yeah.
Jim Starlin. Beautiful cover.
Yeah, you can tell that Jim Starlin by the planets. Yeah, I love Mon-El is he's got the blue cape and red costume instead of the red cape and the blue costume.
And they always use Dream Girl, and I mean, Dream Girl's the most useless character in the world, but put her on the cover anyways, because
throw her right there in the front. Yeah, put
exactly.
throw her in the front. Well, Dream Girl, she could, predict the future. You know what I mean? Which is a tough power to make a super.
While she was asleep, though.
Right, have to go to sleep and predict the future. Now, I'm going to say this: I have a character that's based on Dream Girl in the sidekicks, and I thought about this. I'm like, I want to have a character inspired by Dream Girl in my sidekicks team that's actually useful, because in my role-playing games, I always talk about my role-playing games. We play superheroes, and there's certain powers that are just NPC powers. Predicting the future. Do you want to be the predicting the future guy? You know what I mean? And like, okay, I can't shoot lasers. I'm not super strong, but I can go to sleep and tell you what's going to happen Thursday. Okay, thanks a lot, RJ. Your character gets no experience points this adventure. Yeah, she's basically, but they made her a strategist. Later on, she became the leader of the team, and she was smart and she was flirty and she became like a good diplomat, because if you remember, they were almost like an embassy of all different worlds. I really did like the character. Ultra
Although
Boy.
the ending of the character was, I hate it how they ended with that character. It was after that run where you were just showing when they went back to basically teenagers, because they were all clones, and they they had Dream Girl as, if I remember correctly, she was like the president of the New Earth because Earth got destroyed, and they made her a fat old woman. And I was like, I'm
That
sorry,
worked.
I'm sorry, guys. Why?
Yeah.
Why would you do that?
Right. When you take one of, like, her whole purpose is she's Marilyn Monroe superhero. And yes, she's one of the inspirations for Starlet, my character that's in the Metal League that you'll see in her debut is in Bill Williams' Giant Size Punchline #1. She's platinum blonde with the tattoo. She's Marilyn Monroe superhero. She's supposed to be hot, so of course let's make her a fat, disgusting blimp. You know, I love Saturn Girl, and like she had the kids. I don't want to spoil it what happened to her kids, but I thought that was like, oh my, like for such a whimsical comic book, some really dark stuff happened. You know?
Oh yeah, it's like Shrinking Violet, and she gets, what is it? I don't know what you'd call it today, something like PTSD or something like that, because she got she was so abused basically because she shrank down and wasn't able to help and stuff like that. Yeah, there was some dark storylines.
Well, she got captured, if I remember, and like somebody else was Shrinking Violet, well, and she was like captured for months, if I remember correctly, and she, you know, and it took her a while to get over, you know, and they're all powerful, like what's his name? Why can't I think of Element Lad? That guy could. He's like the most powerful superhero. And then you got Superboy. And then you got Mon-El, who's Superboy. And then you got Ultra Boy, who's Superboy, but one power at a time. You know, exactly. Every one of these guys is vastly powerful. Oh, okay. This is the Chariots of the Gods guy. Von Dyke in the early 70s wrote a book called Chariots of the Gods, in which he came up with the theory that mankind was guided to civilization by. Yes, you're absolutely right. I didn't place the name, but that's what Kirby was doing. He read Chariots of the Gods and he made the Eternals. It's not even a secret.
All I can think of after you read that was the line from The Thing where the guy, what's his name, the stoner guy, he's there. They're falling out of the sky all the time, man. Chariots of the Gods.
My favorite line in The Thing is Wilford Brimley. If you let me back in, I'll be good. And he's got the nukes hanging up in the back of the shed. Yeah. And my favorite thing about the movie, The Thing, is we don't know anything about the alien. They don't tell you anything. Was it the pilot of the ship? Was it a prisoner? Was it like a contamination on the ship? We don't know. You know. And
two things, John. Number one, the sequel, which was really a prequel, actually does discuss some of that, but it was really bad. Secondly, somebody wrote a really good book. I never got to read the entire thing, and it was basically from the perspective of the Thing. And I don't know, it was about 20, 25 years ago, maybe. It's very interesting concept, something you might be interested in.
I saw a tweet today, because we can't, you know, it's called X, and it, you know, we can't call it X's. We still say tweets, and it made me laugh. It was the alien from the movie Aliens, you know, with what's her name, you know, Alien, the first Alien movie.
Sigourney Weaver.
Yeah, Sigourney Weaver. I couldn't think of her name. So you see that alien, and they said he goes, I want to remake the movie Alien, but from the alien's perspective, and it's basically Die Hard. You got a creature going through all the air ducts, fighting people who are trying to kill him. You know, I'm like, yeah, it is. It's Die Hard from the alien's point of view. Yeah, Superman has kryptonite shackles. So what would Mon-El have? I guess he has lead, right? That's his weakness. Yeah. How are they all in chains? Because Ultra Boy doesn't have a weakness. Sun Boy doesn't have a weakness. I guess there's some sort of power dampeners or something. There's always power dampeners. Yeah, that is a great cover.
Also remember, what was it, Jim Shooter, when he was creating new characters for Legion of Superheroes, he was the first one to say, okay, I want to create characters that don't have pointy powers. You can't just point your fingers and all of a sudden something happens, right? That's why he came up with really, well, well, stupid characters, but at the same time, some good characters like Karate Kid. He came up with, he had to study karate and he had manuals for karate in order to put him in the book and things like that. He actually, they paid him money when they made the Karate Kid movie because he proved that he had the rights to the character name.
Oh,
But yeah,
good.
and things like that. But he cut his teeth on creating new characters for Legion of Superheroes.
Yeah, there's like 30. Yeah, and Vaz is right. At the beginning, the Legion of Superheroes had a no duplicate power rules for the new league. Yeah, so I always wondered that. So how did Mon-El join? Because Mon-El and Superman have the exact same powers. Mon-El is a Daxamite, and Daxam was a planet colonized by Kryptonians. So the Daxamites, or each of them have Kryptonian powers, but like Kryptonians, they don't have the power on their world. But unlike the Kryptonians, their weakness is lead, so they never leave their planet. Their whole planet has no lead, or all the lead is contained. And Brainiac 5 created a serum that gets rid of Mon-El's weakness to lead.
I was just thinking, you just brought up something really I never thought about. Oh, what do you think about the Legion? It was like Legion 95 when it came. I can't remember what the Legion that was set in.
It started out Legion 89, and then
that's it. What do you think about that series? Talking about cosmic books.
So it was like a Vril Dox was like one of the Brainiacs, and he was kind of like, it's such a trope now that super intelligent people have to be sinister, and so he became like, let's just solve the problems without ethics or anything like that. So he started like a superhero for pay group, and they patrolled the galaxy, and as long as you subscribed to them, they were a superhero group. And Lobo was on it, other derivatives of the Legion of Superheroes, and it was pretty good. And it was like Keith Giffen artwork. I forget who wrote it, and it was a big deal for a while. And they were trying to make it like the next big thing, and then it stopped being Legion. If you remember, it became Rebels.
Yes,
because now they were like fighting against like this empire that had enough of their
Dominators, if I remember correctly.
It was pretty good. I liked it. And then I don't want to say it's memory hold. It's just forgotten about.
You know what's memory hold if we're talking about cosmic superheroes? The replacements for the Green Lanterns when they were taken down was the Dark Stars.
The Dark Stars, yeah. Remember Donna Troy became a Dark Star. I'm gonna get some Dark Star art while you talk about that. Yeah, that I thought that was they were like a rival police organization, right?
Strowman did part of the Dark Stars, if I remember correctly. He's beautiful art.
Yeah, here's the first. Yeah, this is the cover that I remember. Totally. Oh, it's not working. Damn you. Okay, I gotta get another image. Yeah, it's so 90s now that I'm looking at them. Let's see. There we go. Holy moly, this is gonna make people laugh how 90s this is. Yeah, look at that. Can I make it bigger? No, I cannot. Yeah, they got those Rob Liefeld faces with the lines and everything like that. Donna Troy became one. Man, talk about a character that DC. Is she still around? Does anybody know? Anybody still read DC? Is Donna Troy still around? Talk about a character that the Crisis on Infinite Earths just destroyed her. She never recovered. They didn't want to get rid of her because she was popular, but she had no backstory. Just like for a little while, Power Girl had no backstory, but she recovered. But Donna Troy, I don't know. I think she finally the other character, Fury, she's completely destroyed. You guys are gonna hate me for this, but I enjoyed the Mark Waid run in the early 2000s. I don't hate you. Mark Waid is a phenomenal comic book writer, and I did enjoy his take. He did an interesting take on his, and then didn't Jeff Jones do the Legion of Three Worlds and try to tie the three different versions together?
I agree with John on that, and I'll say what I've said before. Hippies and progressive people can actually write some good stories as long as you nail them to their desk and have an editor looking down their backside. They can tell some
I
good stories.
yeah, around 2000, maybe I'm naive, but I didn't like even during I was alive during the Reagan years, and I first started to become aware of politics during the Reagan years. Like I not really so much the Nixon years. I was too young for that. And I remember people disagreeing, but I don't remember it being as vicious as it is today. So like somewhere around it's like 2016 is when it really became bad in my opinion. Like Mark Wade, he wrote comic books. Yeah, I understood we had different political views, but I didn't think he wanted me dead. And like now, after the death of Charlie Kirk, or the assassination of Charlie Kirk, or the murder of Charlie Kirk, it's abundantly clear that these people they want us dead. I saw another tweet on X today that said, "Your racist neighbor, the most racist neighbor, would go and rescue a black man from a burning building, but your most tolerant, loving white liberal girl would laugh when you get killed." And I think that's absolutely true. I heard that Mark Wade was lazy and let the artist come up with most of the stories. Yeah, I heard he's extremely difficult to work with, and he was like very tantrumy.
Petulant child, yes.
Petulant child. Good description. I'm gonna try to. So, does anybody watch this? Do you know what happened to? Is Donna Troy still around?
All I know is that Wonder Girl has gone through 3 different characters since Donna Troy. So, because they were trying to find a new home for Donna Troy. Again, she became a Dark Star. She became, what the heck was the name of the cosmic version of her? And so
Troya.
Yeah, something other than
I hated
Wonder
that
Girl.
thing. What does Troya even mean? Troya. They in the 90s they just came up with really bad superhero names. Troya. Trying to find live action Donna Troy and the Old Woman Show wasn't too bad. Yeah, who was it? That was you talk about the Linda Carter series. Wasn't that I can't think of the actress's name. That's gonna drive me nuts. But yeah, I remember, the Marv Wolfman, George Perez, Teen Titans. Who is Donna Troy is one of the best comics ever. It was touching, and then they should have left it at that. Like during the crisis, Deborah Winger, thank you, Deborah Winger. During the crisis, they did the decree that there was no Wonder Girl, and they did the decree that there was no Superboy.
Superboy.
And okay, so you want to do that, but then when you relaunch the Legion of Superheroes, just relaunch them. Don't have Superboy. It's a whole new era. The problem is they wanted the best of both worlds. I could go on and on and on about how the crisis was just so half-assed. You know what I mean? Like
there was a good attempt at trying to explain the entire thing in the John Byrne Superman, where the Legion of Superheroes comes back and tries to find out where Superboy went to, and Superman doesn't know who they are.
Right, and it was a pocket dimension of the time travel. It was just so stupid. It made it more complicated. The whole purpose of the crisis was to streamline anything, and it made everything complicated. Like, what they needed was a Jim Shooter tyrant to say, this is the way it is.
Yep.
This is the way it is, and accept it. Go with it. This is the way it is, and go forward. If make up a new Wonder Girl, Donna Troy, and whatever. Make up if there's no Superboy, then what did they have? Valor, right? Mon-El went back in time, it became Valor, and he was the inspiration, and then it was just a mess. I mean, as much as I love the Crisis of Infinite Earth, it was a mess. And DC still has never recovered. They're still stumbling. Like I said, if I was to be in charge of DC Comics, I would have like a cosmic being outside of time and space. And it's almost like he's watching like an array of all of these Earths, and whatever he's focused on right then, that's what the comics are making. Like he's like this spectator, and he's just like, if he changes his perspective over here, it goes back to the pre-crisis. And if he changes his perspective, it's the New 52, and that, you know what I mean. So they all still exist. It's just we don't, you know. Every time DC reboots, it's just him. All right, I'm bored of this. So like, go ahead, make a line of DC Comics that still is pre-crisis.
The John above all. There you go.
Yeah,
Whatever John's reading is
fanboy. I am fanboy. Yeah. Well, we've been talking for almost 2 hours. You want to close down? Do you want to keep
I
going?
think we're good, John. I think that was a good discussion on cosmic superheroes. We actually stuck to our topic today too. You notice?
Yeah, I kind of feel bad because you bring up at the topic and then 5 minutes into it, I'm like going off on something else. So,
that's okay. Good,
so
good days. I'll keep you on track. Good. When I want to go off track, I'll go off track.
Speaking of crises, I would be remiss in my duty if I didn't bring this up. RJ, Marcus in the chat, a whole bunch of us, but I keep saying 35, but it's not an exaggeration. At least 35 independent comic book creators. We're all teaming up and we're making Crisis on Independent Earths. That's what this t-shirt is all about. I'll bring this up while I'm talking about it. Anybody who buys a shirt, you're going to be, or a hat or whatever, you're going to be helping us bring awareness to this project. What it is it's an homage to all of this wonderful cosmic stuff that we've just been talking about. So the backstory is universes are being destroyed. They're being snuffed. And in my comic books, there's an agency that monitors all of this. They get alerted and they are going to expend infinite energy to bend time and space and create what I call an Aleph, but nobody knows what that word is, so I just say an intersect. And for a limited time, all time and space is intersected in once, and it causes ripples or weirdness in your reality that causes it to be noticed. So you as a writer, you got 3 to 5 pages to get your guys to that intersect, and then for a shining moment, everybody exists in the same time and space to help deal with the situation. That's all I'm going to say as far as the plot, because I don't want to ruin the ending. But, you know, so I got the opening, I got the ending, and then you guys are going to provide all of your characters. So what is this? This is going to be a gigantic, this is looking to be like 100 pages, at least. It's a catalog for all of our wonderful comics. It's Chuck Dixon. It's Brian Bauer. It's Fabrizio Aiello. It's R.J. Shaw. It's myself. It's Aaron Sparrow. It's so many people showing off their worlds, their imagination, their art, their character designs. Some of them are funny. Some of them are like, we got Keith Gleason's Mighty Mascots, which is, you know, Breakfast Cereal Mascots children's comic book. Some of them are horror. You know, Infinite Chronicles, it deals with like depression and adult issues, but it's 3-5 pages showcasing your world. Then we have a real satisfying conclusion, and then the last couple of pages is going to be links where you can find all of this. So this is like a catalog of everything indie, but it's better than a catalog because it's going to be a cool comic book. And then I'm going to put it on Kickstarter. We're going to kickstart it. We're going to make a stretch goal like poster. I want to do like a wraparound cover with all of our characters, and then everybody else will do their own variant covers. Some people are going to make floppies. Some people, whatever we make. Everybody who participates is an owner of this. Everybody owns their own characters, but everybody who participates is going to own this book, and sell it at conventions. Sell it as add-ons on your campaigns. You know what I mean? You know, for 3 pages, you're going to have a book that you could sell. Things like that. So if you want to participate, these are the rules. No fighting. We're done with fighting. You know, drama is, keep the drama in the books. The second is submit a pitch of your story. If, you know, email me at johnslongbox@yahoo.com. I'll give you a copy of the opening script. You do a pitch, follow these rules. No a portal opens, no it's a dream, no the wise man just told me, and no public domain characters. We really don't want to risk a cease and desist letter after all of this work, you know, from somebody who still claims to own the right. We can't deal with that lawsuit. And then the last thing is have all your completed pages done by January 1st. Anybody who submits will be part of the project. If it's not up to snuff, you'll be in the digital edition. If you're in the if it's good enough to be with everybody else, whatever. And then no fighting. No, I'm not going to make $1 million while you don't make any money. I'm laying out the most money for this book out of all of us. Aaron Sparrow has graciously donated his talents as editor and coordinator, which is great because I thought we were going to have like 6 people, but now we got like 35 people. And it's open to everyone. And when I say everyone, yes, that guy that you're thinking about, it's open to him if he wants to participate, if he could follow the rules. Because it's supposed to be a unity project, and if I start excluding people, then I'm a hypocrite. Actually, DC has overtaken Marvel. Yeah, this absolute universe is kicking butt. So if you buy a T-shirt, I get $1. So if you want to buy it now, because it seems every day the price is going back up to where it's going to settle on $24. I don't get a bigger cut. So if you're thinking about it, buy it now while it's cheaper. I get $1. So far, I made $11 in sales. That's going to roll over into the production of this book. So, I made $11 so far. But I bought a coffee mug, so I'm out $13. So I didn't buy any more. Do you think Green Arrow works better with a traditional longbow or a compound bow? Tony sneaking in questions at the last minute. Keep the drama in the books. I like that. Said Peterson. I invited him. Another rumor that I want to squash. A couple of people are like, well, he never invited me. I invited few people. And I know Pete Sammetti's having some hard times and he's staying off the internet right there. So he's one of the few people that I invited just because I didn't think he would ever hear about it. But if I didn't invite you, you're invited. Here it is. Everybody's invited. You know, I didn't exclude anybody. Everybody. One person excluded himself because he couldn't make it family friendly. But he's still invited if he has another IP. Cool to see King Crypt. It would be cool to see King Cryptid. But I can't speak for Pete Smetty. I don't know all the details of what's going on with alternate comics. But I will say, if you like, most of the alternate guys are part of this. Brian Bow, Wolf and Batsy, Fabrizio Aiello, Horace H. Hoover, Mighty Mascots, Keith Gleason, Josh Howard is going to do T-Bird and Throttle. David Lucarelli is going to do Tinseltown. Oh my God, that's going to be awesome. And I know that there's other alternate guys. Robert Geronimo, he said he was too busy, and that's about it. Log, if you remember Log. I sent him because I'm a big fan of that comic, Log, and he's a total recluse. So I sent him an email, and his only response was, Log will be there. You know, Log will do his duty. So how cool is that? This is going to be fun. So if we get all of the pages submitted by January 1st, I imagine it's going to take 2 months of like editing and coalescing and pre-press and figuring out all that nonsense. And then we'll launch it on Kickstarter. My biggest fear, RJ, is that it does tremendously well. I know that's a weird fear, but like right now, this is just a cool project. But if this makes $100,000, you don't think people are going to start fighting? That is my big fear. Oh, John's taking all this money. So I we'll cross that bridge. I have a group where we talk about this kind of stuff. So if this is wildly, fantastically successful, that means people are buying the books. And, that means it's going to be hard. Oh, and one last thing. I want to do a companion who's who to go with this. So like a secondary book of just like Thomas Valiant. What does he do? His powers, pictures, stuff like that. So that's everything in a nutshell. Now I'm going to record like a 2-minute video so that I can paste it on Facebook because a couple of people are like, what exactly is this? So there you go, guys. So I could use your support. And if you're thinking about buying a T-shirt or a mug, like down here, we got muscle T-shirts, mugs, stickers, and magnets. And I ran into Tammy Faye Baker shirt. Has nothing to do with me. I don't know why that's there. But if you want to do, buy it now before every day the price is going up because it starts out a sale and then every day it normalizes to $24. But I don't get any extra money. That just goes to TeePublic. So there you go. Oh, go ahead. I didn't tell you. Go ahead. Start drawing. Start drawing, Marcus. Start drawing. Reasonable fear. Success is often more dangerous than failure. Yeah, isn't that what happened to Krispy Kremes? They got too successful too fast. The business went under. But anyway, that's it. RJ will be there. All your favorite guys. Yes, that guy is going to be in this book. Other names that I didn't mention. Adam Lawson. I already said Josh Howard. I can't believe some of these people. Chuck Dixon's going to have 2 stories. If you're into Airboy, Tony Grigo, Chuck Dixon's going to do an Airboy story in this, just for you. He said this is for Tony. So it's going to have Airboy, Skywolf, and Valkyrie. I can't wait. I can't wait. Anything you want to close out with, RJ?
No, I think you covered pretty much everything, John.
Well, there's one thing we got to close out with is get Crom the Destroyer. It's on Fund My Comic right now. You know, I've seen the work. The progress is happening really fast. So you will get this book.
Oh, you absolutely will.
Yep, here is the link. Check it out. What is this guy's name? Brzezinski the Great. What is the average page length for stories? Originally I said 3 pages for people's submissions, and I got overwhelmingly yelled at by all the contributors. So 3 to 5 pages, shorter the better. Wow is in 3 pages. One guy said that you can't wow in 3 pages, and I didn't mean to be snarky, and I said, well, then you're not a good writer. You know, like, you could do it. So I did a public eye page in 3 pages because I just wanted to show that it could be done. You can do a complete story in 3 pages. And it's supposed to be commercials for your stuff. And I'm thinking about at the beginning of the book, we'll have like a checklist where you could sign, you know, like, I just think it would be fun to take this book to conventions and get everybody's signature and stuff. You know, I don't know. I want it to be fun. I want it to be fun. It's supposed to be a fun thing. And I really, really honestly thought it was going to be me and like 6 other people, you know, but this is getting to be pretty big, and people are getting excited about it. So, Frederick Kumant says, hello. You came in just as we were about to leave. Check out his book, Rattel. Should be shipping any day now, right, Frederick? And at this, we will say, any last words, RJ, before I end?
I'll see you all later.
See you all later. Bye, kids.
Goodbye, kids. Why isn't it ending, RJ?